One look at our roads will tell you that the SUV craze is in full swing. And if you're someone who wants the practicality and ground clearance that an SUV offers, but aren't willing to forego the driving dynamics of a car, there's the crossover. Now, crossovers attempt to give you the best of both worlds, but a lot of them simply become a jack of all trades and master of none. But what if you could really have the best of both worlds? A fusion of space, practicality, SUV performance, and stellar driving dynamics. Well, the Subaru Outback is designed to give you all that, but let's see how well it delivers. Sometimes compromises are inevitable, and that's especially true in the car industry. For example, it's usually a toss between higher ground clearance or lower center of gravity, power or efficiency, features or affordability, a controlled diet or obesity. Wait, before I go completely off topic, the point I'm trying to make here is that you can't have everything. And that's not necessarily because the world is unfair, but there are just certain things that don't jive well with each other. And the Subaru Outback is proof that that doesn't always have to be the case, because what we have here is rugged, yet sophisticated. It's utilitarian, yet attractive. And mixing opposing themes doesn't always work well, but I think it's safe to say that the Subaru Outback is an exception. In fact, it works so well like French fries and mayonnaise, or Jack and Coke. This is marketed as a luxury SUV, and rightfully so. However, you can't help but notice its resemblance to a station wagon. You may even think of this as a Subaru legacy on stilts, which definitely isn't a bad thing. But after spending more time with it, I've come to realize that it's really worthy of its own nameplate. The exterior of the Outback bridges both sides of the spectrum. It's like a marriage between aesthetics and functionality. Up front, you get a sleek facade endowed with a healthy dose of black body cladding. You also get front bumper guard for added protection. In true Subaru fashion, you get adaptive headlights that are responsive to your steering inputs. You also get LED DRLs and nicely integrated turn signals. And despite its wagon-like silhouette, you get a very healthy ground clearance of 213 millimeters, which is enough to dwarf some crossovers. These wheels are 18 inches, and it's refreshing to see that you get an adequate amount of rubber. These are 225 60 series tires. And as expected, you get four-wheel disc brakes. As you can see, you still get a generous amount of black body cladding along the side. Then on top of the car, you get these roof rails that really mean business. But then in the middle of the car, you have these brushed aluminum touches and simple body lines that lean more towards elegance over ruggedness. And again, the design may be deemed as inconsistent or even contradictory, but Subaru has managed to make it work. And like I said on my XV review, they never fail to give you a tasteful dose of ruggedness. And it's the same case when you get to the rear end. You get a nicely integrated spoiler, sleek LED tail lamps, rear fog lamps, black body cladding which extends all around the back, and rear bumper guards. This tailgate can even be opened hands-free, and opening it reveals a very generous 537 liters of trunk space. But if that isn't enough, you can fold the rear seats simply by pulling this lever, which more than doubles your cargo space. Other nice touches here include these hooks, tethering points, a net over there for additional space, a 12-volt socket, and a subwoofer. But we'll talk more about that when we step inside. But before we step inside, I want to point out the fact that this has puddle lamps, which are placed exactly where they should be, underneath the doors. And that's a really handy feature to have, especially at night. If the exterior merges ruggedness with sophistication, the interior is a nice blend of luxury and functionality. You'll find an abundance of soft touch materials, leather stitching, aluminum accents, which are all nice touches, but you'll also find that there are heaps of useful features, starting with the driver monitoring system. So this can recognize the person behind the wheel, and that allows you to program up to 5 different profiles. And each time you step in, the car will recognize you and adjust your seats, the AC, and the mirrors to your preference. But aside from that, it also monitors driver fatigue and will alert you if it senses that you're falling asleep or if you're distracted behind the wheel. Another neat feature is the fact that the side mirror tilts each time you put this in reverse. Now the seats are wrapped in very plush Nappa leather and they are extremely comfortable. The bolstering is just right and there's good under thigh support. The front seats are also power adjustable. And aside from the driver profiles that you can save here, you also get memory settings. You also get a leather wrapped steering wheel, and the number of buttons here may seem overwhelming, but they are extremely intuitive to use. In fact, it doesn't take a genius to figure out how to use them. And like with any Subaru, there's heaps of adjustability, so you can really find your ideal driving position with no fuss. But aside from all the comfort, you also get a lot of storage, and all the storage areas such as this glove box and this cubby hole over here are all felted and they are nicely dampened. Also get adequately sized cup holders and bottle holders on all doors. Now if you're familiar with Subarus, you might expect to see a multi-information screen right here in the middle, but they've done away with that, and that's the direction they're headed because they've merged it into the instrument cluster. And aside from decluttering and giving the interior a cleaner look, it's also safer because it's easier to view all the information this way. Then we get to the infotainment screen where you get this huge 11.6-inch touchscreen which has Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. It also gives you multiple views of the car's surroundings, which comes in really handy when parking in tight spaces. Now you also get dual zone automatic climate control, and most of the controls are housed in the infotainment screen, which may be an issue for some, but you'll be pleased to know that there are knobs and buttons for the key functions of your audio and AC system. Now, I don't usually discuss the sound system in the car, but the fact that this has a Harman Kardon sound system deserves some attention. The sound system leans more towards the warm or smooth side. You can increase the treble to give it a bit more brightness, but it'll sound balanced at best. This isn't the type of audio system that'll appeal to Mr. High School with his windows down and volume on full blast. But if it's warmth or non-offensive bass and treble that you're after, then this will not leave you wanting. In fact, this interior as a whole will not leave you wanting. There really isn't anything more you could ask for because you get other neat features such as an auto-dimming mirror, illuminated vanity mirrors, and a sunroof. And don't think that all the goodies are reserved for the front occupants because the rear seat passengers are equally pampered. It is extremely spacious back there, and the comfort is almost unparalleled. As you can see, there's heaps of leg and headroom. And the rear seats can easily be reclined so you're not sitting too upright. You also get rear air vents, charge ports, and an armrest with cup holders. Not to mention one-touch power windows for all doors. So aside from the absence of third row seats, I can honestly say that this gives you as much, if not more, than what you'd come to expect from an SUV. But what would really prove if this gives you the best of both worlds is in the way it drives. So what are we waiting for? Let's go! So under the hood of the Subaru Outback, you get a naturally aspirated 2.5-liter 4-cylinder boxer engine which delivers 185 horsepower and 245 Newton meters of torque. Now this isn't brutally quick, but at the very least, power is adequate. I'm also a huge fan of the way that power is delivered in this thing, because as you may already know, this comes with Subaru's Lineartronic CVT. And out of all the CVTs out there, this is one of the best. In fact, it doesn't even feel like a CVT. So power delivery may not be brutal, but it is very refined and, like I said, very adequate. Now when you look at the dimensions of the Subaru Outback, there's no denying that this is a huge vehicle. It's relatively bigger than a lot of SUVs or crossovers out there. But it doesn't feel that way behind the wheel because the visibility is great and the steering is so responsive. So that does a lot to make you feel like you're behind the wheel of a smaller vehicle. Now the Boxer engine really helps to mitigate the added ride height because this car still feels extremely planted and it handles very well. The suspension is very smooth. You get McPherson struts up front and a double wishbone suspension up at the back. And you know, the ride is never jarring. In fact, this is almost luxury levels of ride comfort. And it does not compromise the way this thing handles because you can still corner its speed with utmost confidence. And that's not something you can say about a lot of SUVs. In fact, this handles better than a lot of passenger cars out there. Then there's the symmetrical all-wheel drive system, which doesn't only serve as an advantage when you're going off-road, but you can feel it on a day-to-day drive because it just offers so much grip and the car is so well balanced, which always gives you peace of mind regardless of what the road conditions are. But the highlight here really is the level of refinement that it offers, because aside from the extremely comfortable ride that it provides, the NVH here is almost unparalleled. It is extremely quiet. You can hardly hear the engine or the wind noise. It really isolates you from all the elements outside, and that is definitely something that you'd like to have in any SUV or a car for that matter. But that's not the only thing that sets this apart, because as you may already know, this is equipped with Subaru EyeSight, which is basically Subaru's driver assist technology, which gives you a host of driver's aids and safety features such as hazard avoidance, rear vehicle detection, reverse automatic braking, and since this is equipped with the latest version of Subaru EyeSight, the adaptive cruise control doesn't only work to maintain your speed while keeping a safe distance between you and the car ahead of you, it also recognizes road markings and the vehicle in front of you. So it also manipulates the steering. So let's give that a shot right now. I'm going to turn it on and cruising at around 45 kilometers an hour. Click set and it should do its thing. Okay, it's steering itself. It's steering itself. So it's a little unnerving at first, but it definitely works. So this really does give you the best of both worlds, and I'd like to put emphasis on best because this outperforms a lot of SUVs in terms of practicality and space, and it outperforms a lot of sedans or cars in the way that it drives and in the level of comfort that it provides. The Subaru Outback can be yours for 2,380,000 pesos. So compared to the previous model, it's actually a bit more affordable. Now, you might be bummed out by the fact that it has a 2.5-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine. But really, there's no compromise in the way that it drives. Plus the fact that you get heaps more features. So the trade-off is actually pretty good. Now, this is similarly priced as most of the top-of-the-line PPVs or SUVs in our market today. But nothing will give you the best of both worlds as well as this can, because this gives you the space, the practicality, and the performance of an SUV. But more importantly, it's unparalleled when it comes to comfort and driving dynamics. So you really can't go wrong with this. Thanks for watching.